In the previous section, you learned about summary statements. The summary statement is where you summarize your analysis from the Functional Behavioral Assessment, the FBA. This statement is a clear description of the challenging behavior. The FBA provides you with information on the setting event, if you were able to identify it. For example, a student who isn't feeling well may be more resistant than usual to doing math exercises. Setting events can also be environmental, such as a noisy classroom, or social, such as an interaction with a peer. Remember, a setting event can make the behavior more likely to occur or less likely to occur. It can occur before a problem behavior or well in advance. Using the ABC model, you determine the antecedents that occur just before and trigger the problem behavior. These may include something that is happening in the environment or in the behavior of other people. And you look for patterns in the consequences. What happens immediately after the behavior that maintains and continues the behavior? The consequence can reinforce the behavior and make it occur more often. For example, a consequence that allows a student to avoid an activity, such as a timeout, may actually make the behavior increase if the function of the behavior is task avoidance or escape. This type of analysis gives us the information we need to write a summary statement that includes a hypothesis about the function of the behavior under these specific setting events, antecedents, and consequences. When we then develop a behavior intervention plan, we want to link the information we found in the functional behavior assessment to each of these components of the summary statement. We look at the sequence of how the behavior occurs. First, the setting event that sets the stage for the behavior, then the antecedent that triggers it, then the problem behavior that occurs, and finally, the consequence of that behavior. We want to develop a comprehensive behavior support plan with strategies that address both the antecedent and the consequence, and also teach new behaviors. When you plan an intervention, you want to match at least one of these strategies to each part of your summary or hypothesis statement. As teachers and school staff, these interventions are things we must do for the student. Starting with the setting event, you ask yourself, is it possible to change the setting event? Again, a setting event can make the behavior more likely to occur or less likely to occur. For example, if a student comes to school hungry, can you provide the student with a snack before school? For the antecedent, you ask yourself, how will we modify the events that come immediately before the behavior so the problem behavior is less likely to occur? Because we're interested in teaching the student new skills that he or she can rely on in the future, when you consider the behavior, think about what you can teach the student to do instead of the problem behavior. Importantly, this new behavior should have the same function as the problem behavior or be an acceptable alternative. Finally, consider the consequences by asking, what will we do when the problem behavior occurs? And what will we do when the new behavior happens? All of these strategies must be based on the function of the problem behavior. Why is function important? If a student hits a classmate in order to escape reading and is placed in timeout, then the hitting is actually reinforced. If the student hits a classmate in order to escape reading and is redirected to stay at the reading activity, then the hitting is not reinforced. The student is not provided an escape from work. Now let's look at the same behavior, hitting, but with a different function. This time, hitting occurs in order to gain attention. If the student is placed in timeout, then the behavior is not reinforced. However, if the student is redirected to the activity and therefore receives attention, then the challenging behavior is reinforced. Unfortunately, this is a common mistake with interventions that do not consider function. One way to help you remember to link or match the interventions to the function may include the use of a chart. Here is Demi's example. The summary statement is at the top of the page. Use information from the summary or hypothesis statement to fill in the problem column. Then develop a comprehensive intervention plan to match each component of the hypothesis statement. Always keep the function of the behavior as the foundation of the intervention strategies. In this case, always consider the function of attention. For Demi's example, let's first look at the behavior row. We need to determine a more appropriate skill to teach Demi, a skill that she can use to gain attention. One option would be to teach her to ask for attention. Include the specifics of how this looks in the behavior plan. Now let's look at the antecedent and setting events. You can see that the strategy for the setting event includes having Demi be a member in the last reading group. The teacher can then provide her with some additional attention during the reading group before having the class line up. When thinking about the triggers or antecedents, we usually want to figure out a way to remove them. Sometimes we can't remove them completely, like in this example, the teacher must continue to have her class line up. In cases like this, we try to figure out a way to make the antecedent less aversive to the student. The teacher could stand close to Demi when she is giving the direction to line up. Demi would then receive a little more attention when the direction is given. Finally, for the consequences, there are two aspects to consider. First, we should figure out how we will reinforce the new behavior of asking for attention. Then we need to determine what will be done when the challenging behavior occurs again. Typically, the challenging behavior is put on extinction. This means that the reinforcement that was maintaining the behavior is withheld. For Demi, this means that she will no longer receive attention when she is aggressive, but only receive attention when she asks appropriately. By thinking about each component of the hypothesis statement and matching the interventions to the student need or function, we can develop a comprehensive behavior plan. Let's review what we've learned in this section. For a specific problem behavior, we refer to our FBA for information on the setting event and the ABCs, the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequences, in order to make a summary statement. From the summary statement, we develop a hypothesis for the function of the behavior. We can then develop a behavior intervention plan with strategies that link to and support all the components of the summary statement. This way, we avoid making the common mistake of using interventions that do not consider function.